Hey there guys, welcome to another video. In today's video, we'll be reviewing the V60. I'm just kidding. We're actually going to be reviewing the LG V60 ThinQ 5G, and yes, that's a mouthful, but this baby has got it all. So let's take a look. So the LG V60 ThinQ 5G, which I will just call the V60 from here on out, is really a fantastic phone. So this is a flagship phone from LG, and I appreciate them sending this out to me for review. I did actually put my SIM card in this phone for nearly 2 weeks now. It's still in there actually right now, and it's a pretty great phone. So I have used it with the screen and without, and I want to give you my thoughts. Alright, so as far as our specs, we have two 6.8-inch displays. They are OLED 1080p panels, and honestly they look fantastic. They are at a resolution of 2460 by 1080. We have a 5000 milliamp hour battery, which will definitely get you through the day. Snapdragon 865 processor. Storage 128 gigs on board, 8 gigs of RAM. Still pretty good there. It is expandable up to 2 terabytes via micro SD. We have it does include a headphone jack that has quad DAC, which is absolutely fantastic, by the way. We do have stereo speakers, quad microphones, so you're gonna get excellent videos out of this thing. It does up to 8K video, which is kind of insane for a phone. For security, we don't have face unlock. We have a fingerprint scanner, which is fine. It works just fine, but I am personally not much of a fan of fingerprint scanners. It does come in 2 colors, so we have classy blue and classy white, which I'll show you on screen. And it is IP68 water and dust resistant. However, the dual case or the dual screen is not. So don't dunk your dual screen accessory in the water. Don't do it. It's gonna end badly for you. It does have quick charge 4.0, so this thing will charge super quick. And it also includes Android 10, obviously. So let's briefly talk about these screens. So as I said before, it's a 6.8-inch display, 1080p panel. However, I'm not a pixel peeper, and I think that they look great. So the color reproduction is actually really good. These are flat displays, so they're not curved. And I'll be honest, the curved displays kind of bother me just for typing purposes and going through apps and that kind of thing. So flat is my way to go. So it's an OLED panel, so it's not too punchy out of the box. And a great thing here is it's very customizable. So in the settings here, you actually get a little video at the top here to give you an idea of what the color is, and you have plenty of color options here to go through, which is really nice. And at the bottom here, you can actually change the color temperature as well as the RGB levels to get the screen exactly to your liking. So now, in addition to these customizable settings for the screen, you can actually have separate settings for either of the screens if you wanted to, and you can apply the same to both, whichever you prefer. Another great thing about those dual screens is that they are the same panel, so you're not going to notice any differences in color, any differences in brightness. You can have them the same across the board. So definitely a great thing about the dual screens is you can multitask. So obviously you can have 2 apps open at once, and they are completely independent, so that's super great. Now, in addition to that, you can switch them between screens, so you can flick them between screens. Another pretty cool thing that you can do here is you can actually have something called a pick app, and basically you can choose from a list of your apps and have it open automatically when you open up the screens. So as you can see here, you have this option, and you can go through and choose the app. So you can choose any app that's on your phone, and once you do that, so if you wanted to have a memo, say, open up when you open up the dual screen, you can do that. So the dual screens have a couple of cool functions. So as I said, you can use it for multitasking, so you can have multiple apps open at the same time to go between. You also can have something called dual accounts. So you can have 2 different instances of an app. So for, say, like a social media app that you like to use, like Snapchat maybe, you can actually have 2 instances of that on either screen. So if you have multiple Snapchat accounts, this might be the phone for you. Kind of an interesting thought. In addition to that, it does have pen support, which is pretty cool. So you can use a Wacom pen on this, and it actually has a memo app that you can actually take memos with, and it does actually recognize pressure sensitivity. I don't have one of those pens to actually show you that, unfortunately, but I have seen videos where they do show that off, so it's pretty cool that you can actually get a Wacom pen like that and use it with this phone. And in addition to those multitasking, you can actually have, there's something called gamepad, which is pretty cool. So there's a couple different gamepads you can choose from, and when you actually first turn on the phone or first set up the phone, you have a couple different apps that they include that take advantage of the dual screen, so you can actually use that gamepad. So I thought that was really neat. So included on the phone, you do get a couple of dual screen apps that take advantage of the dual screen. So you get something called Whale for LG dual screen, which allows you to actually look at 2 different websites, or you can actually span the website across both screens, which is pretty cool. You get Asphalt 9, you get Modern Combat 5, DH5, and Sniper Fury. And these are all games that are included, but you can delete, and you can they help show off the advantage of having dual screens. Another cool use of the dual screen here is if you go to use the camera, if you take a picture and you just go to look at the camera or look at the picture there, you actually can look at the picture right there, and you can go through all your photos if you want to, as well as edit and all that kind of stuff on there. So that's kind of another cool dual use. So the cameras on this are actually really good. As I said before, a 64 megapixel main sensor, 13 megapixel ultra wide, and then a depth camera, and they're really great. So unfortunately you don't have a telephoto lens, but you do have the ultra wide, and you do have the really high megapixel main sensor, so you can take a full 64 megapixel image if you wanted to and crop that in, and it works really well. You can take 4K video as well as 8K video. So the camera that I'm actually recording on right now, I don't believe it even does 4K, so that's pretty impressive that a phone can do 8K. When I did try to take some footage with it, it seemed a bit choppy, so it could be kind of a hog on resources to use 8K. But I will definitely show you some samples from the camera to give you an idea.
Adios, amigo.
So another interesting thing when taking video is you have a couple of options because you have quad microphones on this. So you do have the basic recording, and that'll record just as it should. And then you have something called ASMR recording, which is kind of interesting. So it says, amplify the sound of a subject in a video recording so you can hear even the softest sounds. So that's kind of interesting. Not sure if you can see that there. And then you also have voice bokeh. So take a video that reduces ambient noise and focuses on voice. So that's also kind of interesting. So as I said before, this does have a headphone jack. So it does have a quad DAC. And I had not tried that before, and honestly it makes everything sound so crisp and gives such a great punch to everything you listen to. It's absolutely fantastic. It's only on wired headphones, so you can't use it with Bluetooth or anything like that, but you do have the ability in the settings to actually turn it on and off when you do plug in the headphones, so you can listen with or without. I think it's fantastic. So if you're an audiophile and you like to listen with wired headphones, this phone is great. Now the only downside about the wired headphones is if you use the dual case, you have a recessed input for that headphone jack. So you're gonna have problems with inserting headphones in here, so you may have to take the phone out of the case. And when I say recessed, I'm talking like iPhone 2G recessed. So if you don't have something that goes straight in and you have one that goes at an angle, it's not gonna fit in here. So that's the only unfortunate part about that. We do get stereo speakers on here, and they sound absolutely fantastic, really good, and they're also good for phone calls, so phone calls are loud and clear. Alright, so just wanted to give you a quick sample of the stereo speakers on here. So I'll just play this real quick.
I wonder if we'll make it through this summer. Just wanna touch like back when we were younger. Yeah. Why don't you love me, love me, love me? Touch me, touch me, touch me no more. Why don't you love me, love me, love me? Touch me, touch me, touch me no more. Love me, love me, love me.
So this is a 5G phone, so it is available on with 5G on all carriers, and I have the T-Mobile variant here. However, in my city, I live in Jacksonville, Florida, and there isn't a lot. So there's only little bits and pieces of it, and honestly, of the speed tests I did, I actually got better speeds with LTE. So the 5G that I saw was over in the south side area, and it was probably not available right out of the gate because it didn't show up on the map when I looked. But aside from that, the LTE speeds were actually fantastic. I got the best speeds I've ever gotten. So I normally main an iPhone 11, and this got better speeds than that did. So the cellular radio on this is fantastic. Call quality is absolutely fantastic. If you have a T-Mobile to T-Mobile, you get the HD voice, obviously, and that actually sounded absolutely great. I didn't have any drop phone calls or anything like that, and the speaker's pretty good. As far as performance with the phone, it does have a Snapdragon 865, so it is a screamer. It runs really, really fast. I don't really use it for gaming or anything like that. For me, I'm mainly doing social media, texting, and that kind of thing, so I'm not doing super intensive tasks. The only thing I noticed was after a couple days, the RAM management in Android, I think, isn't as good as it could be. And it could also be that this has 8 gigs of RAM, while other flagships have 10 to 12. So like the Galaxy S20 that has 12 gigs of RAM, I'm not sure how much that actually helps, but I did notice that after a couple days it did kind of need help. It does have an optimized app in here, a smart cleaning app, and I did try to use that, and it did seem to help a little bit, but the only real way to actually clear the RAM out and actually get it to perform as it should was to reboot the phone. So that was the only unfortunate thing I noticed about performance with the phone. So as for our benchmarks here, on the 3D Mark benchmark, we got the 7124 on the Slingshot Extreme OpenGL. On the Slingshot Extreme Vulcan 6217, we do have really fast storage speeds as well, so sequential read of 1383.39 megabytes per second, sequential write 610.43 megabytes per second, and as you can see here, I'll have all this up on the screen so you can see this. It does say when you open up 3D Mark, it says the LG V60 ThinQ 5G can outperform 99% of phones in this test. And then the Geekbench was kind of interesting. So on the Geekbench it showed 411 single core and then 2758 multi-core, and as you can see it compared to other phones with an 855 processor which showed 757, 729. So I just chalked that up to the fact that I had not rebooted the phone in a while, and it was possible that it just had bad performance at that time. When I did the OpenGL test, I did reboot the phone. So yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. Now I will say for the most part, I actually used the phone by itself without the dual screen, and just because it was kind of cumbersome to have the dual screen with it, but just to give you an idea of how the phone looks by itself, I think it looks really great. It is big, so that's another thing to note. So like a Galaxy S20 is a lot smaller than this, but it does look good. It's just big. That's the only thing here. So I'll show you around it real quick here. So as you can see on the side here, we do have one of those microphones. We have our 2 volume keys. We have a Google Now button, which is really nice. We do have these nice chamfered edges around the device. And as you can see here at the bottom, we do have that we have the USB-C port right there. And then we have our headphone jack right here. And we have one of those speakers as well, and a microphone. On the other side, we do have a power key right there, antenna bands right there on the top. we have our SIM and micro SD slot, another microphone there, and then on the back you can see this camera setup. So sorry for the fingerprints. We have our LED right there, and then our cameras right there. And then just to show you the display here, so it is a flat display, has a very light curve at the edge here. You can see that. Really slight, goes all the way around, and you have the teardrop notch right there, and that long earpiece, and then the chamfered edges, so it looks really, really nice. And when you do get near it, it will actually give you this right here for your fingerprint, and that just tells you where to put your finger, and there you go. And then another cool thing with LG phones is you have this thing called knock on, where you basically just double tap and that'll wake your screen and you can go from there. Another thing here, you do have those quick toggles right here, so you can quickly access your camera or you can access your phone, and I believe those are interchangeable, so you don't have to have those, but nice to have. So on the front here, we do have this kind of mirror finish, which, I don't know, to each their own. It's alright. We have a little display in there. We do have just some basic information, so you have your time, your date, some notifications, as well as your battery level right there. You have a pass-through for the earpiece right up here, as you can see. We do have the little hinges themselves. We have those volume keys, that Google Now button, and more of that. Now on the bottom here, we have that recessed headphone jack, unfortunately. Now with this dual case, you cannot use the USB-C, so you get a little pogo pin to use with this. We have our microphone and then a pass-through for our speaker. And just to show you the thickness here, so it does add some bulk. And one thing that kind of bothered me was that the side of the phone is completely uncovered. I don't really personally like that, but the rest of it is covered just fine. You have these kind of ridges on the back, and it covers the camera completely, so you're not going to have any issue if you drop it like that. And it's kind of got a rubbery texture to it, a little bit. And I also wanted to give you a quick size comparison between some other phones here. So this is a 6.8-inch screen. That means it is huge. This is an iPhone 11, which has a 6.1-inch screen, and this is a TCL 10L, which has a 6.53-inch display. So the iPhone 11 is just dwarfed by this huge phone. And then if we look at the 10L next to it, you can see even the 10L is quite a bit smaller than the V60 is. So definitely be prepared. So if you like big phones, this one might be the one for you, but it is pretty large, and it can be a little unwieldy if you're holding it one-handed. So I'm not a big guy, I'm 5'6", so this is how it looks in my hand here. So, final thoughts on the V60. I think that it is a compelling phone. It is unique in that it has those dual screens, two 6.8-inch displays, it has multitasking, it supports the Wacom pen, and has some neat tricks up its sleeve. However, I do know that they made some compromises to get it at the price that they did. The price is another pro, but the con are those compromises. So, those compromises being the 1080p 60Hz display. That could be a turnoff for some people, and honestly, if you do like a really high resolution display, you may not be happy with this. If you're a gamer and you want 90Hz or 120Hz displays, you want those fast refresh rate displays, you may want to look at OnePlus, because they do have a 90Hz display with that. The other thing to note is the RAM. So RAM is only 8 gigs, so if you need more than that, if you need 10 to 12 gigs, you might want to look at OnePlus or Samsung, and those are the big ones. But I think overall, looking at the pros and cons of this phone, I still think that it is a compelling phone because it is unique. So if you do want that dual screen, it is, I don't know, it's kind of a head turner. And you got to think about the folding phones out there right now are very expensive. So folding phones may not actually come down in price until they get a bit more popular, and they'll just get better over time. But I would say this: if you're interested in this phone and you've seen all these reviews, go see it in person. That's the best thing I can tell you. Go see it in person, look at the display, test out the apps you usually use, and see what you think about it. I think, like I said, overall it's a great phone, and I've been very happy using it for the past 2 weeks. I mean, I've noticed some of the downfalls, especially with the performance, but it's something that just a restart can fix. But yeah, anyway guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did like this video, hit that like button, and if you want to see more like this, consider subscribing. And if you did watch all the way through, thank you for watching all the way through, and I'll see you in the next one.